Course number 2 was, actually we flipped them because the croquettes were number 2, but we...
Course number 1?
Course number 1. We started with a bluefin crudo, so kind of a play on like an Italian tuna crudo that would be very classic with capers and olive oil and citrus, and also a cocktail that I really like when I'm not drinking wine, is some sort of like a vermouth spritz with an olive, like a manzanilla olive, and some orange. So we took red vermouth and reduced that, burned all the alcohol off, so you don't have any of the sharpness. And then we soaked oranges in that, dry aged the bluefin tuna for a couple of days just to pull some of the metallic flavors out, and then brushed that with a little bit of dashi before serving, sea salt, and then some crushed olives, a little bit of olive oil, and then the vermouth soaked oranges. Because I think this rosé is, I mean, we talked about this yesterday with the staff, but for being so, like, such a lovely extracted color, it doesn't read, it's a lot more savory, I think. I mean, there's still fruit there, but it's not any of the, like, grapefruit, banana flavors that you get from Provence rosé or, like, entry-level Provence rosé. Nor is it really like overtly perfumed or strawberry-y on the nose. But yeah, very balanced. And again, it's one of those things that like I wish people could taste blind in like an opaque glass, because I don't know that you would realize. I don't know that you would call it rosé.
No, possibly not. Possibly not. I thought that dish was very, very extremely interesting because it had this mix of different flavors with the oranges and the tuna at the same time, and then the olives, and I think that it really helped the wine bloom in a really, really nice way. So I was very surprised, and I did like that combination.
What do you drink this? Do you drink your own wines?
Yeah. Every now and then, but yeah, we do.
What do you?
I like rosé. I like this rosé with a lot of with cod, with black cod, but I also like it with, kind of more Asian style blends. And there's this there's a lot of cuisine now in Spain that has some sort of Asian Spanish influence and mix of flavors, and I think that is very interesting for this kind of wine, which for me is a very special one, because we've had to pay a lot of attention to in the market to compete with a lot of Provence style rosé, and trying to show something different to people. And when they taste it and they see that, it's more intense in color, but when you pour it in the glass, the color is just fantastic, and then the wine is completely dry. I think everybody's really surprised. So I think that it was great.
Yeah, I don't know how we're still in like a moment where we're having to explain to people that
takes time.
Wines are dry, but it's also, maybe that's a horribly pretentious thing to say. But yeah, I mean, it's just wine.
I don't really know where the influence on the color comes from. I think what I heard is that years ago there was this kind of wine in the United States, or where people, it was a very sweet wine and it had that color, like more intense, and I don't know.
I'm sure it is White Zinfandel's fault, like directly.
Tell the story of ripping the Spanish heart out of this wine and refusing to do it.
Yeah. Well, one of the first decisions I had to make with my head winemaker, her name is Pilar, she's from Navarra, and traditionally in Spain, the best rosados or rosés were coming from Navarra, made with red Spanish grapes, basically a lot of them with garnacha, And both Garnacha and Tempranillo, two Spanish grapes that we use for this wine, have a lot of skin color. So the first decision we had to make is, what do we do? How are we going to make this rosé? How are we going to make it? Do we want to imitate Provence because we know it's going to be like an easier sell? Or do we want to make a good rosé with our grapes the way we think it should be made, and not forget about the color? So, we said, okay, let's go for that. And initially it was a bit difficult, to be honest, because there was some countries, and there's still a few countries that are like, oh, customers only like the lighter style rosé, sorry, without even trying the wine. But I'm really happy with what we've done, because I've seen that in the last 15 years, the market has evolved, and especially in the United States, where I think that the consumer, although it's not the mass consumer, but you are seeing a lot of somms, a lot of restaurants, a lot of buyers that are not concerned with the color anymore, and that they are willing to defend and to show the purity of other style of rosés without being biased for the color. So I think that I'm happy that we really did that, and the wine honestly would not be the same if we wouldn't have gone the route that we went, because it wouldn't have been as complex as it is.
What choices did you make to make it that way?
I'm sorry?
What choices did you make to make it this way?
Choices in terms of...
yeah.
Well, first we allowed the wine to have skin contact for 6 hours, approximately. And taking into account that Tempranillo is harvested at the end of August and Garnacha is harvested 2 weeks later, we have to allow 6 hours for skin contact for the Tempranillo, and then separate it from the skin and keep it at a very cold temperature to make sure that the wine doesn't ferment, waiting for the Garnacha to be ready. So once the Garnacha is harvested, we do the same thing, and then we have both musts together, and it's when we decide the blend. It's usually a bit more Garnacha than Tempranillo, but it really depends on the vintages. But we try to keep it half and half, because the balance of the older bush vines of the Tempranillo have, give the wine a more powerful structure, more intensity in color, a bit lower acidity, and the Garnacha is the opposite. It gives higher acidity, less color, and kind of a lighter structure. So I think that the combination of both is what makes it really interesting. And then 20% of the wine is fermented in used oak that we've sanded before. To sand an oak barrel is basically when you've used an oak barrel for a red wine, for instance, you open the oak barrel and you have someone sand the inside of the oak, and then assemble it back together again. So the oak barrel is just used as a tool. So we use it to ferment, and then we use it to work with lees. Basically, what that helps, we make batonnage, which is basically put the lees back into suspension with the must for once a day during the first 2 weeks after the fermentation is finished. Then we go to 3 days a week, then we go to once a week, and then we go to once a month. Once we see that we've gotten that complexity in that 20% of the juice, the other 80% of the juice has fermented in stainless at low temperatures, 17 to 18 degrees centigrade, very slowly. So we get, a great fruit, we get a lot of intensity, but then we blend both. And that combination is what makes it really interesting, I think. And it makes it a longer shelf life wine.
That piece is really interesting with your dish, because in your dish I heard a lot of layers, and I wonder if you could just go through and line up you've got multiple steps for umami, you've got acidity, you've got sweetness. Can you just run through and pull out, as you've heard the description of the wine and think about the pairing, I can sort of see what you did to lock all the pieces together, but could you just run through those and sort of, if you would check off in your brain, like, what did I cover, how did my dish match that? Because it was one of the dishes of the night. People were thrilled.
Thanks. I think something like a tuna can be really good with a wine that has a little bit higher minerality, but also can be risky, because then it can be too much of that kind of, metallic's a bad word, but for lack of a better one. I think a lot of
Like the
A lot of-
oranges for me, like I didn't know that you had reduced them in vermouth. I just thought that taste was like very interesting, and I wasn't sure what it was. So I thought that combination of reducing the vermouth to get rid of the alcohol and soak the oranges, it's interesting.
Well, it almost when you eat it with the tuna, it almost kind of feels like a soy sauce substitute. Like it's not without being salty. Like it gets that
More natural.
kind of mushroomy flavor almost. And yeah, like with stuff like that too, I like crushing the olives with the blade of a knife rather than chopping them, because you pull out some of the fat that's still in there, and it's not the like sharpness of a sliced olive. So there's kind of little things that we do, but yeah, like you said, it becomes quite layered.
And if you are at home, the thing I hear right away is take out sushi and just a little bit of soy sauce to play with that umami and the richness in the wine of the.
And but it's funny because reducing vermouth and using oranges is something easy at home. It's not complicated.
Right.
So I could do
it's
that.
not complicated. Anyone could do it.
Just that piece.